Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Greg Tanaka for round two. Last year I interviewed him and it was that good that I knew I had to get him on again. Greg is CEO and founder at Prompt Driven. He's CEO and founder, he's Prompt Driven. He's a former Palo Alto City Council member. His company precisely is called Percolata.
Oh, no, it's actually called Prompt Driven. Sorry.
Oh, okay. And Percolata is no longer what?
Oh, no. I started a new company. I started
Okay.
last year.
Got it. Tell us a bit more about yourself and Prompt Driven.
Sure. Yeah. So native California, based here in Palo Alto. Kind of a lifelong engineer. I started programming when I was 6. One of my first programming tests when I was 7. I went off to Caltech, then Berkeley, then eventually Stanford, and then did a variety of different roles. One of the first things I did when I started was design GPUs. So I started out as a chip designer, where I designed the very first commercially successful GPU, and that from there I did a bunch of other things. I did product management, sales, corporate venture, software, and then for the past I don't know, like 4 years or so, I've done a lot of kind of like AI dev consulting. I did like 300 different projects, and much better here, much better lighting now. So yeah, that's great. It's amazing how much of a scene difference that makes in terms
of like Harvey Dent, so I knew I had to switch places.
Yeah, that's great.
In the Batman, the two-sided face guy.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, and then kind of in the course of doing all this kind of AI dev consulting, I'm using all these AI like coding tools, and I was working on some of these really large code bases. And if you try using these AI coding tools on these large code bases, it's almost like throwing a grenade in the code base. You're never sure what's going to be added, changed, or deleted. And in the course of that, I started kind of developing a tool to help me with these projects. And the basic, have you tried any of those AI coding tools out yet?
Yeah, of course. How could I not?
Okay, which ones have you tried?
Well, Claude, I think, is the best. If you're talking about like hard code, but vibe coding, I would say Replit.
Okay, yeah. So, and when you use Cloud Code or Replit, was there ever a time you asked it to do something and it couldn't do what you wanted to do?
Of course, it has pretty bad memory, and sometimes it seems to just stall. I think they've improved on that. I don't code a lot. I should code more. I code on weekends sometimes. Okay. But yeah, I'm a strong believer for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So your experience is actually quite common. Typically, when you first start using Replit or Cloud Code or any of these tools, it goes pretty well. It goes pretty fast. But what happens is when your project reaches a certain size or complexity, you kind of hit the wall. And then what happens is you start, every bug you fix, you create 2 others. And this is that grenade in the code base type of issue. And the core of the issue is that these LMs have a certain size context window. And basically, when the code base is small, a lot of that can fit inside the context window. So it does a really, really good job. But as the code base grows, the problem is that every time you prompt it, it tries to figure out what to put inside the context window. And as the code base gets really large, it tends to get it wrong. So you get this issue called context rot. And so kind of what prompt driven is instead of treating the prompt as a patch, so every time you put a prompt in Replit or Cloud Code, it essentially creates like red lines or edits the code base. And the problem with that is it creates what's called technical debt. And what technical debt is basically kind of like, it's like duct taping your bumper to your car. You could certainly do it, right? And it will probably be okay for.
But the base is shaky, right?
The base is shaky, yeah. And just like real debt, if you have too much of it, you go bust. So what we do is instead of treating the prompt as a patch, we treat the prompt as the source code. So instead of treating Python or TypeScript as source code, we treat English as the source code. And the analogy I like to use is like, for instance, if you get a hole in your shirt, it's very unlikely you're going to patch your shirt, right? You're going to probably chuck it because the cost of clothing over the past 50 years has fallen so much. It doesn't make sense to patch your shirt. Likewise, the cost of code over the past 3 years has plummeted. So I would also argue it doesn't make sense to patch code. You should just regenerate. So that's the basic thesis of prompt driven, where we're essentially regenerating code instead of patching code the way Cursor, Replit, all the other coding tools do today.
Got it. And how far are you into prompt driven right now? It's promptdriven.ai. See, you have a landing page here. What do you do exactly? Is it like more service than SaaS? What are the prices? What's your go-to market? Give me a bit more
Yeah.
details about that one.
Yeah, it's actually an open source project, so anyone can use it right away. It's you have to bring your own LLM keys though, API keys, but and we have a cloud service. So the idea is the open source is kind of our freemium, so to speak. So people can use that, and then if they want a more powerful, cost-effective solution, then they could go to our cloud. So that's kind of our go-to-market motion. And we actually have I don't know if any of your listeners are here in the Bay Area, but we're going to have a hackathon at the end of the month. And so anyone that's interested is welcome to come by, and we're giving free credits, and other companies like Eleven Labs and a few others are also giving credits. And so there's we have over 250 people signed up, but we have a pretty big space here in Palo Alto, so more people are welcome.
Right. And how many clients did you get so far from I wouldn't call it PLG model because some people are saying that PLG is losing traction nowadays. Do you feel you can fuel in a self-sustaining way just with that model, or do you actually need some go-to-market?
We haven't started monetizing yet. So kind of what we released late last year is a open source version of what we're doing. It was basically a command line interface where people can treat prompts as code. But we haven't we have a cloud version, but it's waitlisted. So we have a bunch of people on there, but we haven't started monetizing that. So we're actually targeting our hackathon as kind of the first time that would start taking people off the waitlist.
And once you acquire critical mass of users, what will be the monetization model there? And do you want to raise capital for that one or just pure bootstrap?
No, we actually did raise capital, right? So yeah, so we raised money. I'm actually sitting in the 500 Global's office. We raised money from Blitzscaling Ventures. I'm not sure if you heard of them, but
Nope.
Reid Hoffman's fund, and then Sutter Capital, Falcon X, a few others. Yeah, so we actually did raise. We actually haven't announced it yet, so I probably maybe shouldn't talk about it. But yeah, but yeah, the way we monetize is we charge per token. So, but the reason why people would use our cloud versus use their own LM key is that we're more token efficient. So what happens is we optimize the number of thinking tokens, which model, optimize kind of like the temperature, and by doing that, we actually save people money. Plus, we have some kind of few shot marketplace, which essentially allows people to get higher performance. So people would use our cloud because they could save money and get higher performing code. So that's the basic motivation, and how we make money is basically people buy buckets of tokens essentially.
Interesting. Do you have competition in that niche? Are there other players that are doing what you do?
Well, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of companies doing AI coding, but none that I know of that treats prompts as code. Everyone treats prompts as patches. So everyone, like all the tools you mentioned, and there's a bunch of others like Lovable, and yeah, there you go. So that's my YouTube video. But yeah, so um, basically, we're the only ones that treat prompts as code, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of others that treat prompts as patches. But we believe, patching is kind of a dead thing.
And if there's like hundreds of others, what's your plan to become like the leading one, or is that even a goal, or?
Well, we're shooting after people who are doing large, complex projects. So on a low end, tools like Replit or Lovable are plenty good, but on a high end, people have a lot of trouble using these AI coding tools because they don't do a good
Mhm.
job in terms of trying to figure out what to put inside the context window. Our solution actually scales to any size code base. So there's a bigger gap, bigger the code base becomes. So we shoot after the large complex code bases. Most of the other AI coding tools go after the small, medium-sized projects. We go after the really large projects.
And why are you more bullish on the open source model vs the SaaS model?
Well, we are also SaaS. It's just that we have like a free tier, which is our open source, so people could try it out. And so this has allowed us to get into a lot of high profile companies as a result. So a lot of users are using us. Um, if we were charging, there's a procurement cycle, it's a little bit harder. So it's kind of a way to get a foot in the door. And it's a dev tool, right? So a lot of developer tools are open sourced. So it's kind of a similar model. And so people could see what we're doing. And yeah, so that's the basic idea.
And tell me a bit more about your ideal customer persona. I felt that, yeah, you were for maybe solo builders, but you also mentioned enterprise. So after who would you be going after precisely?
Yeah, typically the people we go after are people who hit the wall with Cloud Code or Cursor or Replit. Actually,
Hmm.
probably not Replit, but more like Cursor or Cloud Code or Windsurf. These are more like tools oriented at developers, and these tools they get you really really far. But at a certain point, you kind of hit a wall, like you said, right? So basically, we go after people who've hit a wall and want to build something bigger and more complex and production worthy. So our kind of ideal customer profile are people who have like a relatively large code base, right? Usually 100,000 lines or more, right, at a minimum, right? So typically, some of our people have millions of lines of code, and that's kind of like where we really excel.
And in enterprise, are people actually using Claude codes or are they still falling behind?
You know, they try. A lot of people try. So there are people who try to use these AI coding tools, but like I said, it's literally like a grenade in a code base. If your code base is small, almost any tool will work. But if your code base is really big, then you start running into big time trouble. So um, yeah, so basically that's where our strength is. At the high end, we don't really have competition. At the low end, there's tons of people. So that's why we're not trying to compete there.
How close are we to having agents that codes full time? Will we always need like indications and creativity and the human seed, or are we close to having an agent that will just copy what the humans constantly do? Because a lot of what we do is pretty repetitive, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think where AI and humans are different is AI doesn't have initiative. So like for instance, we're also hiring people. So anyone that's really into AI coding, we're hiring. So certainly apply. Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, I think what the big difference between humans and AI has zero initiative. AI is very smart, but has zero initiative. So that's one thing I think that separates humans and AI. I think the second thing is um, AI is crazy smart in certain areas, but crazy dumb in other areas. So it's what they call jagged intelligence. So I think humans are good at taking things end to end. AI doesn't. AI gets you pretty far in lots of different things, but never gets you truly end to end. Like never gets a job fully done. So that's kind of like the other thing I look for is like, can you get something fully done end to end? And I think the third thing is humans, we live in the real world, so we have better context. So as a result, we have taste, right? We kind of know what's right or wrong. We have intuitive feel about what's right or wrong. AI will do whatever, right? And it may be totally not right or appropriate, right? It doesn't have that kind of judgment. So for me, when I hire people, I look for those three things. Those things are really, really key. And um, I think AI probably not going to have initiative. I don't think it ever will. And I think the reason why is because there's a lot of safety concerns. So I don't know. I mean, I think certainly they could bake it in, but I think people would probably not trust it right now. Maybe in the future that will happen. And I think people have been trying really hard for the past 3 years or so to try to get you know AGI, right, just where it's like generally intelligent for in all cases. And um, really what's happened is this jagged intelligence, right? Where it's crazy smart in certain areas and crazy dumb in other areas, or make the most basic mistakes, yet be Einstein level on other things, right?
How can you inject initiative in an agent?
Well, I think you could give it a goal, right? And after it finishes the goal, it kind of stops and then it says, really, the AI is kind of like a not. A lot of people like to embody it. I kind of look at it as like a power tool. It's like you were having
Mhm.
using a handsaw, and now you have a power tool. And so it's not like you expect your saw to suddenly like cut wood automatically. So I think it's kind of like AI is also like that. It's like a obedient, helpful assistant that will do whatever you want it to do and then stop. I don't know if I don't. I mean, I've seen some things where they say, okay, we're going to manage a vending machine, and Tom's trying to make money off of that. it would do that, but it wouldn't do much more than that, right? So, and sometimes you don't want it to do more because it's almost like that grenade in the code base where you're never sure what's going to happen. And that's a bit of the challenge. There's more initiative you give it, more problems you could have. So, like with Cloud Code, people have talked about deleting their code base, right? Or like sending out inappropriate emails, or like putting in backdoors, or like faking the whole thing and really not working. There's just so many cases. So I think we really, I mean, for the tool, it's imagine if you had a solve, but it didn't solve where you wanted it. It just solved wherever. It wouldn't be a very good solve, right? You want it to do exactly what you want it to do and nothing more. And I think that's how I kind of look at AI, is that it's going to be this kind of thing which will do what you want to do and nothing more. I think, and there'll probably be ones where you'll help you figure out what to do, but I don't think you want something just doing something randomly, because that is um, you may get very you know unpleasant results.
But employees do that all the time, or
No,
if you
but
have kids, for example, like they mess up a lot.
yeah.
And I'm willing to accept that. I'm willing to put my name behind that if that will get me further, faster, right?
Well,
Even
like,
r-
okay, so I've done a lot of startups, right? And I've hired at this point in my career thousands of people. And like for this company, I'm not planning to hire a lot of people. And the reason why is because AI, right? AI gives me so much more leverage, right? I mean, like, um, yeah, I mean, like my code base is like, 350,000 lines of code, right? And, a lot of it I did by myself. So, you could do so much more with so little. So, like, you don't have to raise as much capital as you used to, because you could just do way more. And so I think it's and to the point, right? Like the nice thing about not having employees, right? Is you don't have that issue, right? You don't have to worry about people think, oh, it's like I'm sick today, or all this other kind of craziness, right? So, and so I think in general, people will try to shift as much work to the AI as possible. But what I found is that AI is great and amazing in so many different areas, and just dead brain wrong in so many other areas, right? And so I think so that's why I look at it as more of a tool. I don't look at it as a employee replacement. It just gives everyone much more leverage.
and why am I thinking that in a couple of years, AGI will look at us in the same eyes? Humans are so bad at so many things.
It's true, but I think the difference is that we live in the real world. And so, I think people talk about AGI, and I think the AGI, bar has kind of moved. It'll keep moving, or people come with a new definition. Like, we a few years ago we passed the Turing test, right? And for, I don't know, 80 years or whatever, that was like the standard of what is, but now people are like, oh, so what? The Turing test doesn't matter. Or, oh, beats one and go. Who cares? What's the
Overnight.
test? Yeah, overnight. It's like whatever. Now, no, when we want something that's basically going to solve, you know, uh, unifying theory of gravity or whatever, right? They're looking for it to do like, so the bar keeps changing, right? But I think the thing is that humans have initiative. We have wants and needs, and fortunately AI doesn't, right? So it will do whatever you want it to do. So it's a like really helpful tool, and I think that's what separates humans from AI, is this kind of initiative, this kind of drive to do whatever, right? To have whatever, right?
And if there would be such a thing as AGI, do you feel that we absolutely need robotics, humanoid robotics, to capture data in the real world back and forth and have a recursive loop to learn on autopilot for AGI to actually be a thing?
Well, I worked on like unitary robots prior to this company, and I mean, God, like it's hard to get these humanoid robots to do anything truly useful. I mean, I think robotics with fixed purpose, like a vacuum cleaner, or in a factory or something, it's amazing. But in like as general robotics, like something that can do whatever, like do your gardening, fix your plumbing, whatever. We're pretty freaking far. Like we are not near the ChatGPT moment yet. I'm hoping that we will, but like you look at all the YouTube videos and you see these robots just doing amazing things, right? And then if you actually try doing it, right, you actually buy one of those robots, you actually try doing it. There's a gigantic gap between like what those videos show and what you could actually do. And it's very different for like AI, right? AI today, a lot of the things you see actually it could do actually, but robotics is like super early days. Maybe we'll get there next few years, but so far it's incredibly disappointing. Like pretty much they are still in the realm of toys. They're toys. They're not quite tools yet. I think
Right.
AI is tools, right? But robots are toys still. I mean, general purpose robots are toys.
Right. Toys are still useful, but if you'd have to pick a
I'm not sure. I'm
winner,
not sure a toy is useful, but it's yeah, maybe one day, but not yet.
and if you'd have to pick a winner, I mean, the first one, Neo, probably not, right? Elon's Optimus or whatever his company's called, and the last one, Brett Adcock's company. What's it called? Archer? Uh,
Yeah,
no,
I was actually in LA at the launch of the Cybercap where they had a lot of
yeah,
Optimus robots walking around, and it's kind of cool, but like you know, I don't
it's
think it's
Hollywood entertainment.
it's more entertainment. Yeah, it's not like these drone robots yet. Right now, they're not really able to do useful stuff. Right? You would fire that person if you were to hire that robot to do anything right now. I mean, the most
So it's a
basic.
very hard problem to crack, is what you're saying.
Well, I would say it's a very hard problem, and it hasn't been cracked yet. And when I think when it does, people do crack it, it would be amazing, right? I mean, I for one want it, and I love this kind of stuff, but it's just like I mean, and right now there's like the hype is way bigger than the actual practicality,
But
right?
we need that to for it to materialize because this attract capitals, right?
Yeah,
Last question for you, Greg.
sure.
What happens once all these robots replace physical humans and then you're not hiring people, I'm not hiring people. I managed over 2,000 employees over the last 10 years. What happens in a world like that?
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that I think just because of the fact that humans live and we have wants and needs, and I think, um, I mean, everything I've seen with AI and robots makes me think that we're going to still hire people. Like I'm still trying to hire people. So anyone that's looking for a job, let me know. But I just I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, people talk about it, but it's um, like okay, if that is so true, right? If this idea that AI is going to replace everyone, why is all these companies, all these AI companies, when they raise money, the first thing they do is hire people, right? Like, but the bulk of their capital is hiring people. I mean, that plus being on GP,
Yeah,
but
but they hired the 1%. They hired
yeah,
the best humans on this planet Earth, and most humans are mediocre. And
yeah,
they would be without a job for sure,
yeah,
because I don't think robots are that far from changing a tire.
yeah. Okay, so like we're doing hackathons. We need a bunch of humans to get the food, right? To set it up, right? So I think I don't I think we're pretty far from a world where maybe if robots actually worked, as a general purpose robot actually worked, then maybe. But if that doesn't happen, then I don't know.
My thesis is just like the changing the nature of work from something that is less 9 to 5 and more entrepreneurial. So, for example, you would order these humans to try to help you with your events. You would order Uber Eats. I think that's the shift that's taking place right now, fortunately.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the idea of everyone's a salaried worker, and every day is like every day is like yesterday. Just I think those days are over. I think we're gonna go much more towards like gig work, right, where it's like kind of on demand, and and
And
and
that's
work
great.
and work is more fluid. Actually, I think that's actually a good thing. I think for the economy, for the worker, I think it makes the economy way more dynamic by having this kind of
Yeah.
fluidity.
Yeah, and for humans as a whole, right? Because the 9 to 5 thing was a movement that was started by big corps to sort of enslave people and own them, right? So that was pretty bad. The Taylorian era and phase is almost over right now. Craig, thanks for
Yeah, of
showing
course.
up today. Where
For
can
sure.
people find out more about you?
Well, Twitter, they can follow me on Twitter. So Greg at Greg Tanaka, or they can follow Prompt Driven. So I think it's at Prompt Driven as well. Go to our website, promptdriven.ai. And yeah, we have a hackathon in the month and here in Palo Alto, California. So anyone that's interested, welcome. It's free food, free credits, so hey, why not?
There you go. So I was Greg and Charles for another founder Wisdom Podcast. And I'm trying